Zoe, for my breakfast dish, my Melbourne classic breakfast dish, I'm going to do something that normally you would buy in a packet. Crumpets.
I love crumpets.
We all love crumpets, and normally you'd have them with lashings of butter on them and Vegemite, or honey, so it drips down your arm. I'm going to show you how to make a batch of crumpets just on your own.
Interested.
Now, what I'm going to do is start with is some milk. I'm going to bring this milk, just warm it up a little bit because we're making yeast. There we go. So I've got two and a quarter cups of milk going into here.
Cream coming out of that milk.
Gorgeous, isn't it? Oh, you love it. There we go.
Organic milk, yummy.
Now, a couple of minutes ago, probably 10 minutes ago, I got some yeast.
Yep.
2.5 teaspoons of yeast, a little bit of warm water, and some about 2-3 tablespoons of warm water, and some. I'll put a sprinkle of flour in there.
Okay.
And what that does, it activates the yeast. And by sprinkling some flour, some people use sugar. It actually gives the yeast something to feed on. I've got 3 cups of plain flour in there. 1 teaspoon of baking powder goes straight in. There we go, make sure I get all of that out. Now, I've also got some sugar because we like a bit of sweetness. 2 teaspoons of sugar in there. You can, of course, add more, but I'm going to sweeten it up later with something else, so we don't need to worry about that. And I've got some butter here. About a 1/4 cup of butter, just melted. You can pop it into the microwave if you want, or just put it on the bench somewhere nice and warm. Now I'm going to pour in the warm milk. 2.25 cups of warm milk goes in there. Now what I'm going to do with this is whisk it around. You could, of course, if you've got lots of lumps, strain it, but with a good whisk and a good bit of elbow work, you can get all those little lumps out of there like that. So it's a nice, smooth dough. Look at that. Pop this in a warm place. So this will stand for about half an hour. Then we'll come back and cook this. It'll be delicious. What do you think of that?
That looks incredible. That looks alive.
Well, the yeast is alive with the smell of breakfast. That's what I like to. It took about 30 minutes, and it really, really puffed up.
It's amazing.
You want all
those... It was almost spilling over the edge. It really looked quite spectacular.
But you notice, as soon as I knocked it and put it down on the bench stand, it sort of dropped down a little bit. But it's just full of bubbles, because you want, with a crumpet, you want it to be nice and sort of holy, because that's where all the butter can drip into.
Yeah, it's so true, isn't it?
Now, you can see my pan here. I've just put a couple of drops of olive oil into the pan to cook with. I've got it down really, really low, and I've chosen a pan which also has a lid that sits on top of it. So, you can put some foil over it if you want, but the lid works so much better. Now, what I've got is a really low heat, and I want to cook this nice and slowly. I just scoop out, and it's really sort of messy when it goes in, and it sort of looks ugly at the start, but believe me, when it comes out, it is delicious. Now, there's a nice amount in there. I'm just going to spoon that around a little bit.
It looks like the slime you used to play with as a kid. Like the gooey...
You could, if you wanted to, put some food colouring into it and, yes, play with it like slime. There we go. Push that to the edge there. I mean, if I was doing this and I wanted to make it look really, really pretty, I'd use maybe egg rings, or you can get little moulds that we would put in there and then pour the batter into it. I pop the lid on there. That's on a low heat. And what they will do is sort of crisp up on the bottom, and then having the lid on sort of steams the top of it so it's cooked. Otherwise, you'll have raw batter on top and cooked underneath.
Okay.
You can turn it over if you want. If you do have any problems with it, you could. But there's nothing better than having those holes in it. Zoe, over here I've got some lovely perinos. What I want you to do is cut them in half, and I've got some chives there as well. Slice them up, some parsley, chop that up as well with some salt, some pepper and some olive oil.
Easy.
That'll be a nice little salsa to go on top. I've got my pan over here, and what I'm going to do is with 3 lovely pieces of bacon. Look at this. Nice thick pieces of bacon. There's not a lot of fat on there, is there?
Whenever you ask me to do something with salsa, it always makes me think we're going to need to freshen up something that's really heavy. That's why I'm doing something fresh and clean.
I love that. Now, you'll make that salsa. This bacon will take a few minutes to cook. This crumpet will take between 5 and 10 minutes, depending on the size. By the time the bacon's cooked, the salsa's made, I'll have a couple of eggs on, and I'll be able to put this together and have a beautiful Melbourne-inspired breakfast. Okay, Zoe, here we go. Look at this. Now, my crumpet just comes straight out. Yeah. You can see, I'm just going to pick that up on the side there. It's a little bit hot, but I'm just going to pick that up on the side just to show you. See how it's sort of crisp on the bottom there? I mean, we haven't got all the holes on the like the bought ones do, but I'll tell you what, it's nice and holy and really light there, which is what it's all about. Here we go. Oh, there we go. Now I'm going to put some bacon on there, Zoe. Just some lovely crispy bits of bacon over the top there. You can imagine sitting in a lovely cafe in Melbourne, getting this little dish here. And I'll just get this couple of pieces of egg. There we go. And the trick when you're cooking eggs is use really good butter. So then the butter actually becomes part of the dish. Yes. You could, of course, you know, have a grilled piece of tomato, but I think when you've got beautiful little tomatoes like these and some herbs, you know, it comes together really well. I've, of course, got some maple syrup because I do love maple syrup for breakfast on my bacon and eggs. I think it just sweetens it up nicely. Just a little drizzle there. And because it's a cafe and you need to fluff things up and make it pretty, just a dusting of icing sugar over the top just to make it nice and pretty.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to trying the crumpet part of it.
I mean, that's the hero here. It's nice and soft and sort of fluffy. It's cooked all the way through. You know, the steaming of it helps the work, but it's got a lovely flavour. I'll soak up a little bit of that maple syrup in there.
I really like the flavour. It's light, it's fluffy. And obviously, you know, it's white refined flour. Maybe you could use a different type of flour as well. Yeah, the rest of it, I'm not so sure. I like the salsa. I think I'm going to leave this all to you, my darling.
You might not be sure, but I'm very sure. This is a delicious breakfast. This is what I like to eat. And I think I'll finish the rest of it off.